I don't have enough time to write. Raise your hand if you have ever said that to yourself or to somebody else, another writer friend or whatever. I just don't have time to write. So that's what we're going to be talking about today on fictionmentor.com. Now, number one, there's a very simple answer to this. So we're going to start with the simple one, and then we're going to get into the more like serious stuff, okay? The simple answer is yes, you do. Okay? Yes, you do. If I followed you around for 162, 167 hours, whatever it is that we all have each week, if I followed you around all week, 24 hours a day for 7 days, I would find you several hours that you could have written. And you know I'm right, okay? So, maybe it's time to watch your show at a different time or schedule it for a different time or place or whatever. Maybe you binge it on just this one time or something like that. Or maybe you just give it up entirely if writing is that important to you. That's going to be the bottom line here. No matter what else I say, if the writing, if the creation is that important to you, and I'm not going to tell you if it is or isn't. That's up to you. If the writing is that important to you, then you will create time to do the writing. That's kind of the jerk answer, okay? I don't want to be the jerk guy. So, having said all of that, is it difficult to find or create time to write? Yes! Oh my god, yes, it is. Holy shit. Children, that'll mess you up. Ailing parents or anybody you are a caregiver for, that's time. Having to work, that's time. Obviously, school, that's time. Church or other social activities, that's time. Time just hanging out with your friends, that's time. Watching your favorite show on Netflix eats into it. I'm serious about that. Stay with me. Do you have the time? Yes, you do. You have as many hours in the week as anybody else. But you do need to prioritize things, right? So I think probably when I get this response from my email list and they say I don't have time, I'm thinking chances are good that these are writers who are dealing with an extraordinary amount of stuff. Now I'm married with 2 kids. I've got an 8-year-old and a 2-year-old, and my 2-year-old is not sleeping right now. For whatever reason, she wakes up at all hours of the night and starts screaming, and so we got to get up and deal with it, and then we're all up at 3 o'clock in the morning, and then we're up again at 5. It's maddening and it's draining, and if you've ever had little kids, you know that feeling, right? Where it's just like, oh my god. And there have been plenty of times when I finally cleared off my calendar and I'm gonna sit down, I'm gonna do the work, and no sooner do I turn my computer on than somebody's out in the living room going, "Daddy!" Like I was just gonna write something. So my wife's father had Alzheimer's disease. That'll mess up your schedule pretty fierce, right? So I understand. I want you to know, first off, I understand. I have a life too. You have a life. We all have lives. Things need to be done. The dishes do have to get cleaned at some point. We do have to do laundry at some point. We do have to feed the baby at some point. I encourage you to please continue feeding your children, and to not lose your job. Things like that. These things are real, and I would get frustrated with any writer or writing instructor who tried to say, well, you just gotta stop watching, Poldark or whatever the fuck, There's an element of truth to that. You do have to stop watching Poldark because he's just gonna take off his shirt and thresh wheat. That's not the point. I don't know if that'll make the cut. The point is prioritizing, obviously, but you know that. You don't need me to tell you that you need to prioritize writing. What I do want to tell you is that you need to also give yourself permission to prioritize writing. Chances are good, unless you're a 20-something college graduate, solopreneur, or something like that with no romantic relationships at the moment, no children, and you're healthy and whatever, you've got all the time in the fucking world. Tear it up. I don't know why you're watching me. Statistically speaking, you are not that person. You are probably someone who has kids, or if you don't have kids, you certainly have a job, and it's probably a full-time job or several part-time jobs, not to mention whatever caregiving duties you may have. So I'm not going to tell you to quit your job. That's how you find more time. I'm not going to necessarily tell you to quit watching your favorite show. I do want you to give yourself permission to do this. There are people in your life that you are beholden to in some way, shape, or form. Now, for me, that's my wife and my kids. I am quote unquote beholden to them. These are people who rely upon me either for financial support, emotional support, whatever. In some way, shape, or form, I am beholden to them. I need to be present for them and active and engaged with them, right? I have a part-time job at the moment. That's 20 hours a week, plus the drive comes to 24 hours a week. So for those 20 hours, when I clock in, I am present there. I have to be available there. I have to be active there. I am beholden to that company, okay? Not much I can do there. I can't really go to my boss and say, for 5 of those 20 hours, can I be writing? Like, that's probably not going to fly. So that's off the table. We got to take those hours off the table. For everybody else, though, spouse, children, other people that we have to care for, friends, other relationships, whether that's a social thing, a church thing, whatever it is, you owe it to yourself to have conversations with them and say, listen, this writing thing, this book that I'm working on, this novel, this whatever, is very, very important to me. It's important to my mental health, which it probably is. I know it is for me. And I need some time. What can we do? How can we work together to make this happen? Now, most people, not all people, but most people are going to be like, oh, honey, okay, sure, what can we do? And you work something out. Generally speaking, you're going to find that there are people who are willing to help you do that because you don't need a lot of time. That's the other thing. Now, a couple things about this. Number one, if you can just average 250 words a day, that's one 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper, double spaced, 12-point font, Times New Roman. That's nothing. That's nothing. Double spaced? 250 words a day is absolutely nothing. If you average 250 words a day in a year, you will have a novel length manuscript. I personally can write about 1,000 words an hour when I'm dialed in. If I can get to my coffee shop or whatever and I'm focused and I'm not distracted by what else is going on in life and can sit down and just compose new work, I can do about 1,000 words an hour. Typically, my stamina is about 2 hours. I can go about 2 hours with that kind of thing, and then I'm pretty much done for the day in terms of creating new work. I might be able to do some revision or some marketing or something, but generally just composing new work, 2 hours a day, 2,000 words a day. Have I been doing that? No. I can't even remember the last time I sat down and wrote 2,000 words in a day. It's been a while. But I've been busy doing other stuff. People have been sick. I've been training for an event. This happened, that happened, work, blah, blah, but whatever. Things come up and I don't have time. But I will. And that's the other thing I want you to walk away with is you will. It's not over. You just have to prioritize it. And I know that sounds simplistic, and it kind of is. So to go back to our TV watching thing, now this is the number one thing that people like myself always harp on. When we hear particularly unpublished writers say, I don't have time, and then we say, how much TV are you watching? How much Netflix? How much Amazon Prime are you watching? And they go, well, a little bit. If you sit down and actually start, and I would challenge you to do this next week, starting on Monday at 6 a.m. or whatever when you get up, start keeping track of how many hours of entertainment you consume every week, every 7-day period. And then come back to me and talk about how much time you don't have, okay? Because I'm quite sure that if you were to do that, you would find 2 hours a week. And at 2 hours a week, if you keep working and you're focused, that can be 2,000 words. You can do 2,000 words a week. That's not bad. Pretty soon you're going to have a full-length novel if you do that. One of the things about that is focus, right? I recommend shutting down your internet if at all possible, wherever it is that you happen to be writing. And this happened. I'm not saying because you always do this. I'm so guilty of this. All writers are guilty of this. We sit down, we write a sentence, and go, ooh, what did the 1989 Jeep Liberty look like? Let me look that up real quick. And then an hour later, when you've ended up on Reddit or something like that, you're like, wait, what was I talking about? Right? Do not research when you're writing, for the love of God. And I'm not the only person to say this. I'm also not the only person who's guilty of it. Do not research when you are writing. Sit down, write.